In the Western Conference Finals, we have a rematch of last season with Edmonton and Dallas, and Dallas has the home ice advantage again after Edmonton beat them last year 4-2. But this season, this matchup looks very different than we had last season. Edmonton is a completely different team, and Dallas has really added to their top end star power this season. But it's going to be a very interesting series, especially based on how their previous two matchups have gone. Edmonton beat LA 4-2 and won four straight in that series after putting in Calvin Pickard, and then beat Vegas in the second round 4-1 and could have easily won that series in a sweep if they hadn't scored on themselves in the last second of their game 4 loss. And Dallas beat Colorado in 7 games and then beat Winnipeg in 6 games. And Mikko Rantanen has been absolutely unbelievable for them. He leads them in goals, assists, and points with 9 goals, 10 assists, and 19 points. And while he has been a little bit streaky and he has had some huge games, and he's looked like a superstar ever since he left Colorado. Rope Hintz has 5 goals and 5 assists for 10 points. Thomas Harley has 4 goals, 7 assists, and 11 points, including the game-winning goal in Game 6 against Winnipeg to send them to the Western Conference Final. And Wyatt Johnson has 4 goals, but what is noteworthy is that Wyatt Johnson is a minus 13 throughout the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. Mikael Granlund has 4 goals and he has a hat trick. So outside of that one game, he does only have 1 goal. And Tyler Seguin has 2 goals, but no one else on the entire roster has over 1 goal. They have 6 players with 2+ goals, whereas Edmonton has 11 players with 2+ goals, and 2 players who have played consistently have scored only 0 goals for Edmonton. So Edmonton this year, after so many years of concerns about their depth and scoring outside of McDavid and Draisaitl, they finally do have players who can really score, and their depth has showed up when it mattered the most. And McDavid and Draisaitl haven't even had to be their amazing selves all the time for Edmonton to win games throughout the first 2 rounds. And so far in this playoffs, they are 8-3 and have cruised in the first 2 rounds at times. So for Edmonton, Connor McDavid obviously still leads the team in scoring with 3 goals, 14 assists, and 17 points. Draisaitl has 5 goals, 11 assists, and 16 points, and they've been exceptional. They haven't played up to their full potential though yet, which is scary for Dallas, because if Draisaitl and McDavid turn it on at any point, they could be in real danger. Evan Bouchard had 4 goals in a 2-game stretch, but also has pitched in 8 assists and 12 points, and has looked more like a top defenseman than he did in last year's playoff run. Corey Perry has had 5 goals and 2 assists and 7 points as he's turned 40 years old throughout this playoff run, and it has to beg the question, will he retire after this playoff run? But he has been an insanely valuable asset for this Edmonton team. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has 3 goals, 6 assists, and 9 points for them. Zach Hyman and Adam Henrique each have 3 goals, and Evander Kane and Connor Brown each have 4 goals. And to see Connor Brown come alive for the Edmonton Oilers throughout this playoff run has been incredible, especially after the rough season he had last year. Now, when it comes to goaltending is where this series is very interesting, because Calvin Pickard came in and won 6 straight games for Edmonton before getting hurt and relinquishing the starting role back to Stuart Skinner, who started the playoffs and lost the first 2 games against LA. But Pickard has had a 2.84 goals against average and an 888 save percentage. And while an 888 save percentage isn't the best and is one of the worst in the playoffs so far, he still has made the saves that have mattered the most, and his goals against average is at 2.84, which is very respectable. Stuart Skinner lost his first 3 appearances, 2 in the LA series, and then in game number 3 against Vegas game number 4 against Vegas when they lost, and has followed that back up with 2 consecutive shutouts and has brought his goals against average down to 3.05 and has brought his save percentage up to an 884, which again isn't amazing, but he's made the saves that have mattered the most, especially in those 2 shutouts. And Over in Dallas, Jake Ottinger has an 8-5 record with a 2.47 goals against average and a 919 save percentage. And he has had games where he's been unbelievable, but he has also looked shaky at times throughout this playoff run. So it's going to really come down to the goaltending and the depth. And I think that's two things that Edmonton has really improved upon in the past season since they met Dallas last year in the Western Conference Final. And last year, in the Western Conference Final, Jake Ottinger was arguably the best goalie in the entire league and won the Dallas Stars the two games that they won in that series. But he has looked, while still amazing this season, like not the top tier goalie that he was last year. And there have been teams that have been able to get past him a little bit easier throughout this playoff run, but he has still been unbelievable. So instead of being the top goalie in the entire league, he's still been top 5 this season, but it might be a little bit easier, especially with Edmonton's depth scoring, for them to crack him this season. However, it is interesting to look at the fact that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl haven't had to carry the Edmonton Oilers. And if you look at the depth scoring for Dallas versus for Edmonton, last season, Dallas had much more depth scoring, and Edmonton really struggled in that category, even though Edmonton ended up winning the series. But this year, like I said before, 11 players have scored 2+ goals for Edmonton, and only 2 players haven't scored for them throughout this playoff run. But for Dallas, 6 different players have scored 2+ goals, and that is not good enough against a lot of teams. And Winnipeg just wasn't able to come out on top, and against Colorado, Mikko Rantanen had to go crazy for the last 2 games of that series for them to even have a chance. But beyond the top 2 lines for Dallas, this team hasn't had a lot of scoring, and that has been an issue for them this year. Whereas for Edmonton, guys like Corey Perry, Evander Kane, Connor Brown, and Adam Henrique have all stepped up so that past the Oilers' top few players, they've been able to really perform. And Edmonton's power play on the road hasn't scored yet. So if they can really get going on the power play and continue the dominance of lines 1 through 4, Edmonton has a real shot to go back to a Stanley Cup final and face either the team they played in 2006 in the Carolina Hurricanes or the team they played last year in the final in the Florida Panthers. They lost both those series, so they have a chance for redemption if they get back to the Stanley Cup final this year. Let me know who you think will win this series in the comment section below. God bless you all, and I hope you have an amazing day. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video so that I can keep making videos. God bless.